It has been over 10 years since we've heard a full album, all with completely new music from Evanescence. Not reimagined songs from the back catalog, not remixes, not live tracks, but an actual new album. The stars have aligned, and Amy Lee and company have finally delivered with Evanescence's 5th studio album, The Bitter Truth. I was a young teenager when Fallen came out, and it was groundbreaking for both rock and music in general, so it feels weird to see how Evanescence has kept their prestige and name value over so many years without consistently releasing new music, along with Amy Lee being the only remaining member since Fallen. Let's be honest, Amy Lee is Evanescence in most respects. The Bitter Truth, running 47 minutes across 12 tracks, is exactly as promised in new music, but also being an extremely reflective album for Amy Lee, who is coming to terms with disillusionment and the difficulties of realizing that fairy tales aren't real for most people. This album is about embracing real life and understanding that not everything is sugar-coated, but you can still excel after accepting that. The new album is also a reflection of where the band is now. In an interview with Kerrang!, Amy Lee said, "This is where we're at. This is who we are. It has to be a whole spectrum of emotions and reflections that make up who you are, who the band is. So far, I feel like each song that we put out is a very different color of the spectrum, and there are more colors yet to come, for sure." As it's been a decade since their self-titled release, expectations are going to be high just through anticipation alone. In that time, Evanescence has done a great job with the current lineup for years, killing it on the road, as well with the Synthesis Tour, incorporating a full orchestra. But this is a new album and what most fans have been desperate for. I'm an Evanescence fan for many reasons, and even if I'm not a die-hard, wake-up to Evanescence music every morning style of fan, even I was feeling the itch for new music from the group. It may have taken a pandemic to get the album finally put together, and even after a delay with that, fans finally have what they've been begging for in The Bitter Truth. Back in April of 2020, we were given the first taste of the new album with Wasted on You. The semi-title track opens softly and proves that Amy Lee still has a voice worth hearing. Lyrically, it represents a lot of what Lee described about reflecting on reality. Musically, it's fine. Guitars and drums are fairly static and not much to write home about. The vocals are the standout feature, however. It accomplishes what the song sets out to do. Several months later, we heard The Game Is Over. This track kicks off much differently with a lower tone and big drums. It has a good build. You can hear the energy come out just enough in the chorus. The issue I have with this song is in the mixing. The drum track and backtrack overpower so much of the music. The effects are on level and the sound takes over your attention and keeps this song from being great. The following month we heard Use My Voice featuring a star-studded cast including Lizzie Hale, Sharon Denadell, Taylor Momsen, and Lindsey Sterling. This track was inspired by the Stanford sexual assault trial, and you hear a lot of anger and defiance in the lyrics about speaking out. This is a big song, and the line of "Don't you speak for me" is powerful. It's a memorable track, and the music suits everything well. And just a few weeks later, before album release, comes Better Without You. This is my favorite single of the 4 released. It's reminiscent of the Fallen days with a heavier style just towing the waters of nu metal while having a great rhythm. The mixing is still an issue, with some of the tracks like the bass being really low. I mean, even the vocals sound faded at points, but I still feel this song has a lot going for it. I complain about the mixing because I feel that is the one consistent problem on The Bitter Truth. So many tracks have solid writing, a good rhythm, backtracks add the right mood, but the volume of each instrument and the tracks are all conflicting with each other, even at some of the best moments. It's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely noticeable. Artifact the Turn is the shortest track on the album, along with being the opener, and I do think it accomplishes a lot in setting a brooding, mysterious atmosphere. At halfway through the track, when you hear more distortion leading into a haunting Amy Lee, it does a great job in building anticipation. Broken Pieces Shine has a booming drum track, and the percussion really shines here, which is great, but it overshines Amy Lee at points. This is a strong track, but it definitely feels hindered when you hear a thick riff and drums all layered over vocals poorly. I like the song, but just wish it had more polish. Amy Lee is the focus of Evanescence by far, and she's a footnote on this song because of the volume. Yeah Right, which was released as a promotional track along with Use My Voice, has good moments and a good low bass line that adds some movement, but so much of that low tone feels muddy only after a minute. It's another song that works overall, and Amy Lee sounds good and some nice guitar plays in the bridge, but the mix makes everything feel flawed. Feeding the Dark reminds me slightly of earlier Evanescence with the chorus. The piano inclusion is simple and adds just the right levity in the guitar work. It's a solid song in the music, and while I'm not sure if this will ever be a single, I do think it's a good inclusion on the album. Take Cover relies more on digital effects, and the great drumming from before takes a back seat for just a steady rhythm. This song does not stand out well as the singles, and the mix is awful. This feels like it's written to be energetic and powerful, and there are points where you keep cranking up the volume to make out everything that's being sang. It's a shame. When you can't understand what Amy Lee is saying or singing, there's a problem. Far From Heaven, the longest song on the album, is gorgeous, however. The strings are all well delivered, the piano in the beginning accompanies Amy Lee beautifully, and the digital beat in the second half works well. It still has the volume leveling issue, but hearing this song really hit the spot for an Evanescence ballad. Part of me picks the energy back up, and the riffs sound much better with the tone, and I think the picked up speed right after Far From Heaven is a good dynamic. It's not a killer track lyrically, but sonically the music flows, and outside of a slower bridge, 4 minutes does go by pretty quickly. Finally, Blind Belief ends the bitter truth with some strong guitars which I feel should have made a bigger appearance throughout the album. It drags in the middle, but this song is much stronger than most in the full runtime and definitely works as a closer on an album begging to be remixed. I can't stress enough that this album is desperately needing another go in production. I apologize for sounding like a broken record at points when describing some of the songs, but production and mixing on the album really soured so much of the experience. I admit a few tracks sound similar in writing and tone in the first place, but Evanescence for the most part wrote and performed a decent album, and it was poorly finalized. It does not show off the best features of the band. The album is fine, but definitely could have been much better. Overall, The Bitter Truth has shining high points but suffers from production value. Evanescence fans will definitely be able to latch on to new hits, and many of these songs should work well in a live setting, but the truth is that the first completely new album from Evanescence in a decade should have been a touch more exciting. Not bad by any means, but still leaves us wanting. What did you think of The Bitter Truth? Leave a comment and let everyone know. Big thanks to my patrons and a special thanks to Brandon Barenfeld, Chris Doman, McKenna White, and Dom Noble. You can have a say in upcoming videos and see videos early by supporting Rocked on Patreon. Please click the link in the video description and info card for more information. Please subscribe and ring the bell to get notified on upcoming videos. You can check out my concert photography on Instagram, and you can keep up to date with Rocked on Facebook and Twitter.